I'm your host, Lawrence Francis, welcoming you to the Winery Fingerprint series. Now, here's the problem I keep running into in wine. Walk into any wine fair and ask the producers what makes them different, and you'll tend to hear the same 5 or so phrases. We're family owned, we're small production, high quality, estate grown, or award winning. And here's the thing, even when that's true, if everyone says it, then ultimately nobody really hears it. And in a region like the Weinviertel, Austria's largest wine region, that's not just a minor problem. It's the difference between finding the export partner you want and getting completely overlooked. So today's guest is Anna Faber from the Weingut Faber-Köchl in the Weinviertel region of Austria. And together we uncover their unique positioning, what I call the winery fingerprint. We get there through 3 winery fingerprint frameworks: business objectives, where the winery is now and where they want to be in 5 years' time. We look at customer clarity, who their ideal customer actually is. And we look at producer positioning, putting their current slogan, origin story, and unique selling points to the test. After that conversation, I'll come back to finalize the winery fingerprint and lock that in. Next, once I've shared that with Anna, I'll bring her back to tell you what happened once she'd actually started using the winery fingerprint. And I'll close with exactly what I recommend Anna does now. So if you're a producer listening and recognizing your own winery problems, that recommendation applies to you too. So let's start off with the Discover conversation that I had with Anna. And that call took place only once Anna had completed a 3 Winery Fingerprint Frameworks questionnaire. So hi, Anna. It's really great to be speaking with you finally and to have you on the podcast. I can't wait to have our conversation today and really explore more about the winery and its future direction and the winery fingerprint, which is the topic of the day. But I think to give me and to give the listener the context, really, would you please introduce us to yourself and to the winery? And I think where I'd ask you to start is really talking about your production size, your location, and really kind of what types of wines that you are creating.
Yes. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here. My name is Anna Faber. I'm from the winery Weingut Faber-Köchl. We're situated in the northeast of the Weinviertel in a small village called Albistal. And yeah, we're a small winery. My mom started the winery with only 1 hectare in 1999. And since then, we grew up to 8 hectares and we produce around 30,000 bottles a year. Mm-hmm. And typical for the Weinviertel, we have a focus on Grüne Veltliner, but also on red wines and blends. So we do white blends. And we have the typical production or we have like 3 wine categories. It's like on the bottom we have Grüne Veltliner Classic or Zweigelt, which is typical for the Weinviertel. Also a lighter style of Grüne Veltliner. Then on the mid-range we have Grüne Veltliner Single Vineyard. It's called Sachsen. Our white blend named after a Mozart composition. Mm-hmm. And we have a red and a white Mozart composition blend. And also we have some rosé natural style. And on the premium end, we have natural style Grüne Veltliner and Traminer and also Pinot Noir and another red wine. And this is the situation right now, but we're actually in the process of restructuring the wine range right now.
Yeah, brilliant. And as we'll get into now, and I think this is the really interesting thing about the conversation is that you're being very open about, there's transition and there's change happening. Because specifically in 2026, you and your husband are taking a more forward step into the running of the winery, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Because the winery, my mom started the winery in 1999 and started with end customers and only started with 1 hectare and had to develop to grow. And with this growing process, we were able to take over vineyards. but there were just like grape varieties like Riesling or Merlot that fall into our lab that we wouldn't have planted ourselves. And so we have a wide range of different varieties, and right now we want to focus on Grüner Veltliner and also on blends and on like more wines with not a specification on a variety, but on the
Mhm.
market name. Yeah, and we're in the process right now with this one. And I think blends are going to be able to have a really nice future with climate change and with the hard things about climate change. Like we are in a region in a Weinviertel which is supposed to be cool climate, but right
Mhm.
now we have like a heat wave, and I think it's going to be hard to get those crisp, fresh kind of style that the Weinviertel represents to have this in the
Mhm.
future.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
in our experience, the white blend with Riesling is really, really nice too. We have a blend with Pinot Blanc, Riesling, and Grüner Veltliner. And then 2024 was a hot vintage, and we were able to work with the Riesling to get the crispiness and the freshness of the style. Yeah, and I think it's really a nice opportunity to work with the blends. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And again, this is great because naturally you've already started to bring in some of the future goals, and absolutely, having even in England this week hit around 37 degrees, talking about climate change and talking about the style of wine that again your specific winery is making within that broader fine fertile messaging, I think is super important. But I understand as well you also have some specific market goals as well, places where you're wanting to either enter or to consolidate. Could you tell us a bit about those?
Yeah. So we've been expanding the export range. Because my mom started with end customers in Austria, and she only did export in Germany. And since I've joined her in 2015, we've expanded to different countries like Netherlands, Czech Republic, and now we really want to focus on UK and Canada and Scandinavia, because I think those are the markets that appreciate our kind of winemaking, like organic production, focusing on the handcraft of the winemaking. And also we're a female winery, and also with my husband joining, we still are a feminist winery. It's still important for us. And I just think the markets that can appreciate those values are interesting for us.
And just to say as well, the questionnaire that you completed before we hit record, I asked you to rate your confidence of achieving those goals in the next 5 years, I said, and you gave it a 7.
Yeah.
And I'm just really curious what lies behind a 7, because it's not a 10, it's not a 2, it's somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I am confident, but we are still figuring out like what makes us really unique. So
Hmm.
I think we really need to focus on the storytelling, and
Hmm.
which is really special about us. That's one thing, because we're still in the process. We haven't figured it out yet.
Hmm.
That's one thing about why I didn't put a 10. And then the other thing is also that wine business is hard right now. It's not that easy to keep positive, but we are, I try to stay positive and look ahead. But the situation is hard. And that's why also the 7.
Yeah, no, understood, understood. And I feel like as well, there's something relevant for where I'm sitting in London. Can you say something about the UK market, because it seems as though that's maybe one that you are going to be thinking about going forward, or thinking more about even going forward.
Yes, we just started a collaboration with a UK partner, but
Hmm.
actually the wines only arrived there yesterday or so. Yeah, so we met them at Wine Paris,
Hmm.
and they have wine shops and started with craft beer, but now are more focused on natural wine. And they have different shops and also work with restaurants. So I think that's interesting for us. They're young startup first. I have good experience when we have a real personal relationship with partners,
Hmm.
and there was a sympathy between us, and I appreciated that they started their own business. They made it. I think they have like 7 shops in London right now. So I'm impressed by their work and appreciated, just their style and how they work. And yeah, I think it
Very
was
cool.
really
Very
interesting
cool.
meeting them.
Okay, so Anna, just in terms of then the business objectives, what I'm hearing is that there's obviously change happening within the winery, and that maybe this year and the coming years you are just wanting to consolidate really, and let's say put yourself in a good position to make wines that are going to do well in some uncertain times, to be able to keep quality high, to keep drinkability high, with that actually hotter climates coming up. But I also, what I'm getting as well, you mentioned what the Faber-Köchl is kind of known for. We don't want to kind of deviate too much from that, but that might mean that we have to do some blends, and we have to make some changes. But we want to keep within that messaging that the Faber-Köchl is putting out there, and also export. Let's say it's important to you, I think, because of your personality, and you maybe have an international outlook, but also for the business, it's important because choosing some key markets that resonate with you and resonate with your messaging will give you more resilience and maybe more predictability. You will be kind of safer because you're not overly reliant on just Austria or just Germany. How does that sound as a summary of business objectives and kind of where the business is going?
Yeah, I want to focus on export just because it's fun for me to
Yeah.
be in get to other countries, but it is also we have good end customers that we want to keep because it's very there. Also, there's a relationship to the end customers. They really are more like friends, some of them, and we need to grow. We need to be economically sustainable too. So we need another market, and that's why we wanted to focus on export more. Yeah, just
Okay.
to have another. Yeah.
Okay, let's change gears and let's change frameworks. So we've already spoken about where the business is going. Let's think about the customer. Let's think about who you're working with to get you there. And again, to give a little bit of the background, I did send you a questionnaire beforehand, and you completed this and you created a quite specific profile of your ideal customer based on some 4 criteria that we'll get into. And then you also provided me with a description of that customer and who they are. You actually provided me with 2. You provided me with one for the Cyprus market, which is one of your export markets. And then you provided me with another one for the German market, which is your main export market, like a lot of Austrian wineries. And I'll just double check you're okay for today to focus on the German customer, which is the second profile that you sent across.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Of
and
course.
he will be fresh in your mind as well. So I'll very quickly just run through the 4 criteria that you used to specify that customer. So it is a B2B customer. So again, not one of your personal customers there that you just mentioned there. Their primary focus is the on-trade channel. So that is supplying or operating restaurants, bars, and events. They love discovering new producers and championing something new to their customers. And the relationship matters deeply. A compelling story and genuine character are as important as what's in the glass. So what I'll do is just really ask you to, more for the listener, just introduce them and reintroduce me to that customer that you chose. We don't know if this is his real name or not, but you told us about somebody called Marcus, who is 50 and is a wine bar and cafe owner in Germany. So again, in a sort of a 2-minute way, tell us a bit about, I think, one, the relationship that you already have with them. And secondly, how might that change based on everything that we've spoken about in terms of, evolution at the winery?
Yeah, so we talked about Marcus, who is in Germany, who has a restaurant or cafe and a wine bar.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been working with him for, I think, 10 years. So we have a relationship. We see each other once a year and personally. And so we developed a relationship with each other, and he has his wines that he likes and he buys, but he's also very flexible in trying new things and also taking the customers with him. So when we new wine, he's interested, he buys it and also shows it to his customers. And So it's very collaborative and trust-based.
Mhm.
But there's also, and I focused on this partner because we have a partner like this in different countries.
Mm.
And
Mm.
it's very important for us, this kind of customer, because we have the relationship. They also they try new things and are open for a small winery where you have to tell the story, because we're not a big
Yeah.
name. We
Yeah.
don't. It's not like they show the wine and everybody knows the name. So they have to
Mm.
tell our story and have to show their customers how we work. But in our experience, we work really well with them. The negative thing is when it's mostly a one person operated business, and then we're
Mhm.
also very dependent on the person and on the relationship. And usually they don't sell big charges
Yeah.
of wine, so they only
Yeah.
take like up to a pallet.
Mhm.
And we have many of them, many of these partners. But
Yeah.
as we develop and want to grow and also in export, we would like to have bigger partners too that sell more wine. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, just to re-emphasize, I think because you've got Marcus and you've got other customers like that, and even kind of it sounds like we think the UK customer might even be more similar there as well. I think for today, let's focus on the Marcus avatar, that type of customer. Okay, so you've very nicely given there what are some of the pros and the cons. We don't need to go through every single one of those. But again, I like to hold myself to account and hold you to account as well, because I asked you to add up the pros and the cons. I said if it's all pros and it's all positive, then it's a 10. And if it's all cons and all negative, then it's a 0. Add them up, and what number do you get? And you told me it was a 6. So that's again
Yeah.
the obvious question there is what's behind a 6? What might change to get him higher? What would make him a 7 or an 8?
Yes, a 7 or an 8 would make him, if there was potential for growing,
Mm.
if he grew, or if he could take more wine sell more of our wine, because it is a one-person business and
Mm.
like 15 years to go. But then it's going to retire, and I don't know if someone would take over. And if you have, that's why I was a little bit hesitant with rating him higher,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
very dependent on the person. Yeah.
No,
And
yeah,
because
that makes
yeah, it's a good partner and a reliant partner, but there could be more bottles sold. Good. Yeah.
okay. And I think this is also this is a bit of a thought experiment. So if we were to imagine that all the other customer types were to go away, no more personal customers, and you had to run your business only with Marcuses, how many, again, I know this is an estimate, so it doesn't have to be a precise number, but roughly how many Marcuses would you need if that were to be your only customer type going forward?
I think like up to 50, I think.
Around 50. Okay.
Yeah. If we're
And
only selling to,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then how many do you have more or less right now across all of the markets?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess around 10, 15, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then how far geographically do you think you need to go to find the difference, to find the 40, 35 already within the
Um,
markets you've described? Would that work?
I think we would have to expand, because sometimes there are quite small markets like Cyprus or Netherlands,
Hmm.
where you have like maybe one up to 2, 3 partners like this. And then
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
when they're smaller partners, they often want exclusivity too.
Mm.
And then it's harder to, yeah,
Hmm.
I think we need to expand the markets and onto different countries. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm making it tougher for you by saying you can only have one customer type, but that again, this sounds like a really good customer to have. The thing that I draw out the most is the loyalty. It's that long-term relationship, and almost when you get them, then it's not that you're safe, of course, of course you still have to keep making good wine and keep doing all of the other positive things, but their preference, and maybe because of the way they run their business, their preference is to work with the same supplier, not to shift too much. Okay, I think we've gone right down the rabbit hole. with Marcus, and I feel as though he is very clear in your mind, and you have a very clear picture of what his motivations are and what type of customer he is. Let's get really specific. What is it that you think that you as a winery have and you as individuals have that he wants? Why does he keep coming back?
Specifically with him, it's actually one wine.
Hmm.
And that's the Mozart blend because it works in the German market as well. And he's a musician, so
Hmm.
that's the thing that he stays for, I think. Yeah, but he also appreciates like the small winery, family run, that we know each other, and yeah, that we already know his customers too a little bit
Sure.
because we visit him and do events with him. Yeah.
Amazing. And sorry, could you just, again, it can be quite short, just describe that wine that you said, that blend that is his favorite, let's say, or at least the one he buys the most of.
Yeah. So that's a blend that's called Köchl-Verzeichnis, and it's
Hmm.
named after the Köchl-Verzeichnis. It's like an archive where all
Hmm.
of Mozart's compositions are archived, and every composition has a number. So we took two names, two compositions, and one is called Auf das Wohl aller Freunde. It translates to Cheers to all our friends,
Hmm.
and it's a and we named the white blend after that, and it's a blend that's easygoing but also structured. So it's relatable. So when
Hmm.
people smell it, it's fruity, it's present, and
Yeah.
they're open for
Yeah.
drinking it. When they drink it, they still have the structure and the deepness of the wine. So it's a blend that's very easygoing too. And with the name, like Cheers to all our friends, it's also a blend that's you can bring it with you to your friends.
Hmm.
And in this concrete situation, he's a musician. He does concerts, and then he gives the wine as a present to the musicians. And they, of course, know how what it is, what the Köchelverzeichnis is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is
Yeah.
it's like as a thank you for the musicians. Yeah.
It's like all of his favorite things all in one wine together. It's, as you say, it's versatile. It tastes great. It's got this musical reference. And so I think that's actually a really good example of, kind of packaging up but that wasn't designed specifically for him, was it? Or was it?
No, it actually developed in a year. We were in 2012. We had a lot of problems with birds,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they were coming like the starlings, I think they're called in English.
Yeah.
They fly into the vineyard and pick the grapes. And it was 1 year we didn't have problems at all with these birds. And then in 2012, I was working in Germany in an internship, and my mom was doing the harvest, and it was late harvest. I think only Riesling and one Veltliner was still in the vineyards. And she went there on Saturday and thought, okay, great, we're gonna harvest it on Monday. And when they came out on Monday during the Sunday, the whole day, the birds kept flying in, picking the grapes, and there was nothing. And so we had a really small charges of Camina and Riesling it was. And then for my mom, it was she didn't know what to do with the small batches.
Hmm.
And then she was talking to a friend, and she said, why don't you just make a blend? And I have an idea for you, because she was thinking she's a Mozart fan, and she always thought it's the Köchelverzeichnis and our name Faber-Köchl. We should do something with the name.
Yeah.
And she
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
I have this idea. Why don't you just do the blend and search out a composition that fits the wine? And yeah, it happened like this. It happened out of a bad situation where we didn't have enough wine. And so the blend happened. And my mom also shares her birthday with Mozart on the same day. And it was just for her, it was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. But I think it was actually with the blend, we found Marcus because he was at a tasting. He saw this
Okay.
wine. I thought, funny story. Yeah.
Where I would encourage us to go to now, Anna, is I want to bring out more about your current positioning. So we
Hmm.
can always come back to Marcus, and we can always come back to the other customers. But I want to get into and make sure that we explore what you're currently saying. And why do I say that? Because again, it sounds as though the relationship is probably quite well set up with existing customers, with existing, Marcus types, the small independent guys. And, let's assume that each one of them has something unique that they come back to you for. Let's look forward. Let's think about, okay, what are the things that you're going to be saying at the fairs, at Wine Paris next year, online, to get more, because that's what I think should be the focus. And I asked you to share your stated slogan. So this is where we refer back again to the questionnaire. And you said there's two basically. So could you run me through those? Frauenpower am Weingut, which is my terrible German, and then also the informal tagline from mother to daughter. So maybe start with that first one, because I think you said it's in German only and there's no official English version yet.
Yes. So the slogan in German is like powerful women, powerful wines, because we played with the thing that my mom started a winery. She had no background in wine. There's no tradition on the winery. It was a mixed agriculture farm. And my mom took over the vineyards and developed the whole winery of it. So it took power. It took courage to do it. And and me taking over the winery and working with her since 2015, we developed this slogan. And now as we're working more with export, we don't have an official slogan, but we are in the process, and that's why we chose from mother to daughter, because it is a winery founded by Maria, my mom, and I took over. And I think it's still not that common that a woman founded a winery and then her daughter took over. Yeah, that's what we've been working with now.
Yeah. I would agree, actually, not only in Austria, but it is certainly not so common. I think, a lot of wineries talk about being female run or having a female winemaker, but you're right. It's not super common that you will have that across two generations. All of that being said, again, when I asked for your confidence in specifically, I think that first slogan, powerful women, powerful wines, you rated that a 5. And again, what does that 5 mean to you, Anna?
Yeah, because as you said, there are a lot of wineries that do the marketing slogans with run by women or etc. So, and it's a good thing that more women take over. Totally positive, but it's not unique anymore. And that's why I rated it a 5. Also because it's not right anymore, because my mother is retiring. I'm still making the wines. I'm still in the front of the winery. I have the power over the winemaking and the vineyards. So it's still very focused on me as a woman doing the wines. But my husband is joining me, and it's not like a only female winery anymore, like it used to be. And it's just we have to develop something new, and that's why I rated it a 5. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then alongside the slogan within this framework, I also asked you about the origin story. And to be fair, you've covered this already, I think, several times. So that's, again, just to remind me and to remind the listener, that's your mother, Maria Faber-Köchl, founding the winery in 1999, leaving her career without that background of winemaking, without inheriting land or having a lots of background, kind of forging her own path. And then you, since 2023, carrying on the vision, husband Gabriel coming into the business as well. And I think you've quite accurately spoken about some of the changes of messaging, that will, because it's a different winery, than 99. I want to hear a bit about the future, what you want, what you want the winery to turn into, because you've ended that origin story there about, and I'll just read it out. Together, we are turning our young family winery in Austria's Weinviertel into an organic, terroir-driven project, currently in conversion to Demeter certification. And I will say that's a lot. That's a huge thing. And it's fine, but you've almost drawn a line there in terms of the timelines. You've just said, we're doing this, and then you haven't said anything beyond that. Share a little bit more, like, what do you see that sort of turning into in the next 5-10 years? What is your vision for what you're creating there?
So we are in conversion to Demeter right now, and it has been a path. And because we've been doing our compost and having sheep in the vineyards for the last 3 years, composting for 15 years. So it has been a path, and the Demeter conversion is just the last step in this path, I think. And because we're thinking about what we want to do with the winery, and it's just focusing on diversity more, because we have complications coming with climate change, as we talked before. We are in a very dry region. We want the vineyards to be strong themselves, and we want to focus on the soil and having them healthy, so we can still make great wines out of it. Also with the complications of climate change, with the really dry weather, and that's the focus for our vineyard. We just want to be more diverse. We want to do the vitiforest system, where we plant like trees and other hedges in between the rows, and just to compete with the climate change, and then keep on making these wines that are terroir driven with low intervention, and just selling them successfully. We want the wines to get the appreciation that I have for them, to sell the wine successfully, actually, so that we can live off the winery.
Yeah. And again, and that's, that's not a bad goal, is it? To support you and to support your family. But I think also supporting the local economy as well. I think it was very interesting to me, Anna. I asked you about your stated unique selling points. You said something here that stood out to me in the USP part. You said that we are based in Eibestal, and you described it as an unremarkable corner of the Weinviertel, which again, emotional response. It makes me smile. It's a very honest and open statement, which is really great. But I'm curious, what did you mean when you said that phrasing, that it's an unremarkable part of the Weinviertel?
Yeah, that actually came about because in Austria we're focusing on the Grand Crus right now, on the single vineyards, and all of the Austrian marketing tends to, I think, or right now it sounds to me, everyone wants to have the single vineyards and rated them, and we thought about and looked at our single vineyard, and we just thought, okay, with the criterias, we wouldn't be able to do it. So why focus on it? Because Eibestal also always used to be a small village with mixed agriculture. We didn't have like 100 years ago the big, potentially great single vineyards. We are next to, or like 10 kilometers away from Poisdorf, which is a very important city in the Weinviertel for winemaking. And they have these single vineyards that have bigger names. But in Eibestal, we never had them. And we're the biggest with 8 hectares, which is really a small winery. We're still the biggest winery in Eibestal. So we also don't have like a lot of big wines coming out of Eibestal. And we said, okay, we don't have the Grand Crus. We don't have a tradition like many Austrian wineries have, like 250 years of winemaking, because my mom only founded it. And we don't have the big names with the vineyard. And we're still working on becoming a big name. So we're really not, we can't work with that. And then we were thinking about, okay, but let's make it into a positive thing. And work like with the underdog thing. We are underdog region. Weinviertel is also still an underdog region in the whole of Austria. We are in the village that's not very remarkable, and we don't have a big name yet. So let's work with this and make it a positive thing, and just focus on the soil health, because when the soil is healthy, you get great grapes, and with great grapes, you can make great wine. And that's the focus for us now. Yeah.
Just jumping back very quickly to what you said previously, Anna, about wanting to create more diversity, focus on the soil, everything you said there. You mentioned a vitiforest system. So I have 2 questions really. Like, one, are there any other examples of specific things that you want to change, like projects, let's say, like sites where you're saying, okay, I want to put that there, I want to do, like actual things that you're planning out? And then also just to give us a sense of, are these things already done, or are these things coming? Are they going to be coming in 27 and 28? That would be really helpful.
Yeah. So we're in the planning process, but we are gonna plant some. One project we have where there's a vineyard site, and between 2 vineyards of ours, we have a field where right now we're only using it for our sheep for grazing when they're in the vineyards. And we want to plant, and we're gonna plant them in after harvest this year. We're gonna plant different trees, and hedges so that we have some space. Firstly, we have more shadow for the vineyards because we're going to plant the trees right next to the vineyard. And then we have shade for the vineyards, shade for the sheep, and biodiversity for the nature, the ecosystem, but also for we're planning right now to get more bats into the vineyard in the evening because we have good experience. Or we heard that in a Swiss winemaker started a project where he made the vineyard side attractive for bats, and they eat a lot of insects. And that's one thing we don't have. We want to make because we have a very dry region, and the most difficult thing is going to be to have a water site right in between the vineyards. And that's our project for this year, for after harvest.
Yeah.
We want to plant trees and also do in Austria called insect hotels and everything, not just stones dipped out. So do we have more diversity? And one thing that we think is also that its diversity also helps us to get the soil more healthy. And that's, again, healthier soils, better grapes, better wines. Yeah.
I just want to really, for today, say thank you, because I feel as though, and I don't know if you feel this as well, but I feel as though what you've shared here is actually the real essence of what you're doing. And for me, I am already a lot more engaged and a lot more interested in your story than what you put on the questionnaire. And again, I don't know if you feel that, but from my perspective, I certainly feel as though you have already spoken about some really, really key points that are going to completely set you apart from every other winery out there. And importantly, now we've got our lens of Marcus and people like Marcus. These are the things that are going to attract and retain more customers like Marcus. And then those two things together is what gives you, and gives your business, most importantly, gives it the stability to be able to have a chance to sell wines in what, as you rightly say, is a very competitive market. So I'm just really curious. How do you feel after having spoken about those things? Do you feel as though something has shifted? Do you recognize what I've said to you there in terms of what you've shared, and really how unique the way that you've spoken about your winery is?
Yeah. It already started with the questionnaire because I thought, okay, now I have to sit down and really think about it. And it was already helpful because I never saw Marcus, like this person that I want to focus on. But then with thinking about it, because we also had a bigger partner that's very different, difficult. We have a big partner that sells to gastronomy, and with COVID and harder times, and gastronomy or the simpler gastronomy is they don't have sommeliers anymore. So they don't have time to tell you about the wineries. And when you don't have a big name, it's harder for them to sell you. So, and we tended to have focus on this bigger client or customers, but then we realized when only the name is important because they don't have time to sell the wine, then it's harder for us because we still have this underdog situation going on. And with this, it really helped me a lot with the customer description. And it opened for me a new opportunity to think about, as you asked, how many would you need? 50. I thought, okay, that's not, it's it's not a goal that I can't achieve, So that was very mind-opening. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Okay. So as we close really today, I want to share my feedback to you. It's time for me to give you my first impression and to give you some guidance on what I think is your winery fingerprint. Does that sound like it would be helpful? Are you happy for me to tell you that? Yeah. Okay. And this is more just for us and more for you, just to refresh you, because I want to be able to test what I'm going to say against the criteria. So is it a 30-second statement? Does it help with the positioning? Is it unique? Is it something different to what your neighbors are going to be saying? And then maybe most importantly, for today, because we're talking about Marcus, is it truthful? Does it sound like you, personality? And will it get an emotional response in your customer? And there's really then there's three things, Anna, that I would share and I would encourage you to take from today and to discuss with your husband, and I think will be useful guiding principles. And the first one, I'll get the most difficult one out the way first of all. But I think that what I want to hear from you and what I think you should be talking more about are what
Yeah.
I call specifics in the future. Okay, specifics in the future. What does that mean? It means that where you are focusing now is on specifics in the past. You're talking about what your mother did, and I'm not in any way putting aside what we wouldn't be here talking if it wasn't for your mother. So she's done a lot of incredible things. I think actually the way to honor your mother is to put the winery in the strongest business setting, isn't it? So that it survives forever. But we'll come back to that idea of specifics in the future. And why do I say that? Because I think the best part of anything that you shared today, like the gold, the real nuggets of gold, everything that you said, which you started the sentence with, because we're going to, or because we're gonna. And I'll give you, the examples there. We're gonna plant different trees in the vineyard here. We're going to implement a vitiforest system. You know why? Because we're going to have shade here for the plants, so they'll be less stressed in the hotter times. There's also going to be shade there for animals if we're having animals in the vineyard, or for people. All really good one, because we spoke to such and such, and bats are really good positive predator to have in the ecosystem, because they go in and they eat the insects that would otherwise do something bad to our vineyard. So the bats are actually working for us. Isn't that super cool? I'm sure you have a list like that of things like this that you want to do. And actually, the real power, and I think the real draw and the attraction is actually more because it's not been done yet. It's like, I think sometimes we feel as though we have to talk about only the things that exist now. But if you are standing here now and you're saying, this is where I want to plant this tree, and I love this type of tree because X, Y, Z, the more you can be specific. And what's the opposite of specificity? I'll be honest, the death of specificity is using words like sustainability. And again, sustainability is great. I'm not against sustainability, but when you just say sustainability, there's no emotional response. It's like, oh, Coca-Cola is talking about sustainability, but Coca-Cola is not talking about bats in the vineyards. Coca-Cola is not talking about sheep in the vineyard. Coca-Cola is not talking about vitiforest. You see the difference there. You being, let's take this to the next level, ultra specific. What do you want to do, where it's going to be, and how it's going to help you. So that's those are two very related concepts. So first is specifics in the future. Be aware of when you use the phrase because we're going to, or we want to. That's where you will be talking about that naturally, and write it down, because that's going to be super helpful for you. And
Yeah.
then
Okay.
the third point, and we'll get a chance to discuss all of these together. But for what is the winery fingerprint? What is the short sentence that gathers all of that together? Well, I'll give you two things. I agree and I understand the word underdog in the Weinviertel. I would just be aware of that word. I personally, if I was in Weinviertel, I wouldn't be using that word too much. Not because it's not a good word. I think it is a good word. I think it's relevant, but I've noticed a lot of people using it in the Weinviertel. You remember the 100 wineries talking about, oh, we're family owned and we're award winning. It becomes confusing. I would just say my prediction is that in 2 years' time, we're going to see too many wineries in the Weinviertel talking about being an underdog. And I think there's already enough signs of that for me to say I would encourage you not to use that language. What I think is the better concept for you is the idea of a project. I really like that for you, because I get, again, from talking to you, I get a sense of that you are quite organized. If I had to, again, we've only spoken for about an hour and a half, but I think you come across as a very considered person, a very thoughtful person. I feel as though you have planned out a lot of these different things here. So I kind of like the idea though of putting the idea that you are planned, but again, let's make it relatable. You don't have all of the
Okay.
answers yet. Nobody has all of the answers, but who is honest about not having all of the answers? Not enough people, I don't think. So I almost like, for you, I almost like a phrase, something like it's a project in process. It's like i- almost like it's an unfinished project, or that's not as good. But it's more that it's. I think that maybe that's the best I will get to for today. It's a project in process. It's just the idea of, guys, look, we are professionals here. We're organized. We know what we're doing. We're not going to overstretch ourselves. But that, hey, this is not a finished journey. This is not complete. This is a journey. I think there's maybe something there about those two words as well. I like that, the project journey. Again, discuss this with your husband, discuss it with the team, discuss it with your mom. Bring all these words around, but something around the project to get your more organized part and professional part. But there's got to be something that's a bit more human, a bit
Hmm.
more accessible. And I really like the idea of that, the journey. So
Yeah.
I also, a bonus. I like that wording for you, is like you can kind of invite people to join the journey. You can even, taking it even to the next level, invite people to the winery and show them a completely blank piece of land, and tell them about your plans. Tell them about the projects, which again right now are primarily on paper, or they're in your mind, but these are very, very attractive things for us. Why? Because it makes you more attractive as a couple, as a family, as a business. Like, wow, these guys they're thinking differently. They're thinking about the future, but they're not like, they're not fantasists. That, it's not just, we believe them. We believe them that it's going to happen. But I think that would be really a good balance for you. And I think it opens up a lot of really exciting opportunities, not only to bring people to the winery and keep those personal customers. That's important. It's like, okay, maybe we need to change the story and bring back some of those personal customers, keep them coming and buying wine. Why not? But then also, I think that is a type of story that's so attractive. Like, wow, you're doing these amazing things here. It's way better than just talking about an underdog. Like, oh, it's almost in a way why I don't like underdog. It's almost like a little bit like feel sorry for us. Like, we don't need to feel sorry for you. We don't want to feel sorry for you. We want to be engaged. We want to be excited. We want to, honestly, I can feel it now. We want to get emotional about what you're doing there. And I think this is the way to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, because it was, yeah, it totally hit because I am very considered and thoughtful. And sometimes I think I plan too much, but it's a good thing, because I always think I'm very, right now, because we have small children. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and I feel like we've been planning for so long because we didn't have the time to do the projects. And now it's starting, and now I'm getting a little bit like, we need to start. We need to do something, but it's a good thing and a good idea to take the people with us. Yeah. And to,
I absolutely love it. I
yeah, I
absolutely
have
love
some
it.
ideas. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. That's
Okay.
it. This is such a short time, a short interaction in a much bigger process. But in closing, though, you've been giving yourself scores out of 10 for all of this time. Please give me and give those ideas a score. Like, where
Mhm.
are you like, wow, this is something that I really see the winery fingerprint there, something around, this project, the project being a journey, and me talking about specifics in the future that cut through broad generic terms like diversity and sustainability. How does that make you feel? How confident are you that would be positive for your company, and positive for attracting and retaining more people like Marcus?
I'm very positive, because it's the journey. It's very truthful, because we're doing it anyways, and we just need to market it. You know what I mean? It's,
100%.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, we just need to talk more about it, but or document it via social media and so, and we are able to do it. So I can see it. I think it's very positive. It's the path that is important for us, because we just want to put this work and energy into the vineyards because, like I
Mhm.
said before, it's gonna be harder to farm the vineyards. And so we're doing it. And the good thing or the positive thing is your feedback that we can also market. Yeah, take it for marketing. You know what I mean?
I genuinely think the best marketing and the best communication, it's almost like it's about finding the thing that you naturally do already, but then drawing attention to it, having somebody draw your attention to it, and then just like saying it on all the channels. Again, you're not a massive. This is why I think the size matters. Like, you're not a giant company with lots and lots of marketing team. It's like, really you need one message, one big idea that you repeat on all of the channels, and it's just kind of who you are. It's a lot like, for example, it might be on social media, it's like you or your husband or the pair of you just talking about a piece of land at the winery, just saying, oh, this is what we're going to be doing here. This is right now, this land, I'm making this up, but right now this land, we don't plant it because XYZ, it's got such and such issues. But actually we're turning the negative into a positive, because we're actually going to now put this structure here, or we're going to do something here. We're going to, do you know what I mean? There's this special tree or this special bush that actually loves these conditions. So we're going to put that there, and that's also going to give us XYZ. You will have people's brain firing of, wow, this is such a great story. And we love a story that's not finished.
Okay.
What keeps us reading the book, keeps us watching the movie? It's the fact that it's not finished yet. And your story, the biggest advantage is that it's just starting.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's really very positive because things that I thought were negative, like still we are in the process, we're not finished, and yeah, it's very empowering to hear that we can just use this. And yeah,
So, coming out from that conversation, the winery fingerprint that emerged for Anna was this: a project for the future. Let's run it through the test I use with every winery fingerprint: truthful, personality, and emotional response. First off, is it true? Absolutely. Anna and Gabriel are restructuring the wine range, converting to Demeter certification, reworking the land itself, sheep, trees, biodiversity. Projects now to build a better future for the winery. This isn't a slogan that we've stretched over the truth. It's just what they're doing. Personality, is it specifically them and not any winery? Listen back to how Anna talks. She doesn't describe the winery in its finished state. She describes it in terms of projects. And that, again, is not a marketing angle I invented for her. That's how she actually communicates. The fingerprint is not a costume, it's a mirror that Anna is holding up to reflect how she does business. Emotional response. Does it make their target customer feel something? Her ideal customer, and Marcus, her German partner, is a great example. He doesn't just want good wine. They want to back somebody who's building something. Think globally, act locally, but make it a family doing the actual work, not a brand claiming the values. People don't just admire a finished vineyard. They admire somebody mid-build. Wow, look at what they're doing, and how do I get involved? That's the emotional pull. That's the word of mouth fuel. Now, here's what matters even more. Marcus isn't just a smart choice of trade partner. Think about who his customers are. The people drinking wine in his bar, they're choosing what's local, what's interesting, and what's got a story behind it. They're not that different from Marcus, which means this positioning doesn't just work on the intermediary, it actually works twice: on the person buying the wine for the shelf and on the person buying the bottle off it. 3 out of 3, this winery fingerprint absolutely passes the test. But what matters most is Anna and what she chooses to do with the winery fingerprints. So I sat down with Anna again to ask her a few things directly. First, why prioritize marketing now, and what does she hope it will give her? Next, what she's actually changed since we found her winery fingerprint. And if she were me trying to help more producers across Austria, what would she tell me to do? And at what is currently a challenging time for the wine industry, it feels as though you're choosing to prioritize your marketing, to spend time and money to think about marketing and to get clear on your marketing. So my first question is, what really is driving that decision to focus on the marketing? And again, thinking about the future, what is it that you hope it will give you? What is it that you hope it will pay you back in the future?
Well, we decided to invest more in the marketing because we need to do it, actually, because we're in a transition, like my mother leaving the winery, retiring, and my husband coming in and joining the
Mm.
winery.
Mhm.
So we are in a position right now, actually, that we just need to do something with marketing. But also, I think it's important just because we have harder times in the wine industry. You need the marketing to sell wine. And I just got the feeling that our marketing right now just doesn't fit us anymore. And I feel it every time when I'm on Via Vinum. I was there still with the marketing with my mom together, but actually Gabriel was there with me. And I thought, oh, okay, it doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was the whole year I'm in this position thinking about we need to do something. And it's also, I think it's easier when you're clear in your head what is your story and what's your fingerprint, then you can tell the customers, and then it's just easier to sell the wine, I think. Yeah.
So I first contacted you after Via Vinum. June is a very busy time in the vineyards.
Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, again, they don't have any bandwidth. They don't have any time to consider anything other than the grapevines and the vineyards. So I'm curious then, what was it about my approach when I reached out to you with an email and a suggestion that we have a call and that we talk about your winery fingerprint? What was it about my approach that caught your attention and ultimately made you want to participate?
It actually was this feeling coming from Via Vinum, which I already told you. It was still with this feeling that the marketing needs to be redone, that I need to change something. And yes, it was June, but it was also you approached me. I was always thinking, but
Yeah.
I'm already working in this direction. And then the email came and I thought, okay, that's exactly what I'm thinking about right now. And I don't even have to reach out. You reached out to me. So it was perfect timing for me. And even though it's June and it's a lot to do, there's always a lot to do at a winery. And we also have 2 little children. It's never good timing. and I've pushed this thing away for 3 years now because I took over the winery in 2023. And since then, I'm thinking about how we're going to transition it. And it's a long process in my mind. And I'm getting a little bit not stressed out, but I just feel like I have to do something now. It was just perfect timing.
Yeah. From your perspective, then, and kind of moving on, how would you describe the process that we went through to a fellow winemaker?
Yeah. Well, it's actually 2 steps because we had the questionnaire that you sent me. And it was for me really helpful because I sat down with just myself. I read through the questions and I really got to sit down and think about my customers, my numbers, and our story. But to sit down and really focus on it for an hour, that was the right way just to get focused on it and thinking about the process. And then the interview came then, and I was just really open to the process. And I think that was really helpful for me because I wasn't sure how the interview is going to go, but I thought, well, let's just do it. And then it was really helpful because when I talked about our winery, I think you just saw something that neither I nor my family it was a perspective outside of our winery, but also outside of Austria that was really helpful. And we got to a fingerprint and I think it's very fitting. It was just like an umbrella above it again, like the fingerprint that we talked about. And so I'm really happy with it. And I think it could help the region because I think Weinviertel is still thought of this big producing region that only has lower quality, high quantities. But we're actually a region full of really interesting people making wine. And I think it's important to get those people more known and tell their story. And also the different ranges. We have really good, really big producers, but we also have a lot of small, really thoughtful producers that think about how to do the wine and to work with the winery. And that put a lot of love into the winemaking process. And yeah, so I think it would be really good to tell those stories. Yeah.
I think that's how it can literally help the Weinviertel. It's like, okay, you've got the top down message of we are, a big producing region. We're known for a certain style of Grüne Berliner, and that's okay. And that doesn't have to change. But underneath that, you can have specific stories like yourself, almost, again, thinking artistically, adding more color to that big canvas. It's almost like the region story is almost like a paint by numbers. It's got all of the outlines there, but then to add color, I think you need the individual story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the most useful outcome of the process and what has already changed?
I think the most useful outcome was finding the fingerprint, because it suited us in a really natural way. Because when I talked to Gabriel and told him about our conversation, he was like, yeah, he can work with that. He gets it. And also when I talked to friends of our winery and friends of mine, and I told them about it, it was always like, oh yeah, it fits. You know what I mean? So again, with the feeling, I really got a good feeling with it. And what has already changed is that what we already talked about, I always have it in the back of my mind. And every time we talk about some project that we are the field with the Viti forest, we always think about, okay, how can we implement this idea? Or like talking about the wide range where we do another marketing concept, and having it in the back of our minds, and thinking about how it influences the wines and how we can take it in with the story. Yeah. So we already are thinking with it on the back on our minds, and already implementing it in the process. Yeah.
Okay. So the last question, a big question. So if you were me and you wanted to help more producers and more groups in Austria with these ideas and with these concepts, what would you recommend that I do?
Well, one thing that when I saw your email, I thought, okay, I know this podcast, because when I was working in the vineyard, I always listened to a lot of podcasts. And one of them was yours. And so I already knew you and what you stood for. So for me, it was like, okay, point first check. I already know what you do, and I think I can trust you. And then it was just, it fitted right into our process. And that's why I did the podcast. So I'm not sure why other wineries are not that open to it, but I think maybe tell them more how it can help them. I'm not sure if it's if they realize how useful it can be, and that it's really for them and helpful for the winery. Yeah.
So there you have it. Anna has now completed stage 1 discover of the Winery Fingerprint system. And as you can hear, has a really strong Winery Fingerprint, a project for the future. So what comes next? Well, if I were working with Anna, here's what I recommend she does now. That's to move directly to stage 2 of the Winery Fingerprint system, build. And that's where we build the assets that amplify her winery fingerprint. But what does stage 2 look like? And what do you get once you start? The build is creating a library of assets, podcast, audio, written, printable, plus the guide for using them. So the story keeps working during harvest, when you're on holiday, or just when you don't have the bandwidth to tell it yourself. So picture this, your 30-minute podcast episode is live and it's telling your story in the markets where you want to sell wine. And by the time it ends, the target partner already knows your story before they've even tasted a sip. Picture seller sound bites, audio descriptions, so customers can take the story home with them and retell it accurately when they're pouring your wines to their friends. Or you could send it to a distributor mid-negotiation because it reinforces what they didn't take in during your meeting. Embed the audio descriptions that you'll get on your website. And then whenever somebody comes to the product page, they'll get an audio description of each wine. And it's as if you're standing next to them, telling them all about the wine. And again, to tie all of these elements together, you get a guide. So it's not just the assets themselves, but it's the how, what to say at your next event, what to send a new export partner when you start working together, what goes on a website versus what goes in an email. It all matters. The outcome is that the story keeps showing up correctly in your voice, whether you're the one telling it that day or not. Stage 2 build takes up to 3 months, and I am doing all of the technical work on your behalf here. You just have to show up when we have a recording or send me a voice recording that you've recorded in the comfort of your own home. Stage 2 build costs €2,000 and buys you back hundreds of hours of time. Indeed, do one less wine fair next year and it's already paid for itself. And you'll keep all of the assets you've created to keep buying back time into the future. But I know it's not just Anna listening here. So if this sounds like where you are, and if you're finally ready to start, let's do stage 1, discover together. You'll get exactly what you've heard Anna going through, the questionnaire, the one-to-one session, and you'll walk away with a fully refined winery fingerprint of your own. And stage 1 discover costs €700. Until the end of the summer, there's also an additional offer. If you move into stage 2 build within 90 days of completing stage 1, discover, that full €700 for stage 1 is credited straight off the €2,000 for stage 2. The link is below to get started, or alternatively, just head to interpretingwine.com/summer. And I look forward to hearing from you and making summer 2026 the time when we finally sort out your marketing.